Maxim Samov, Association of the Russian Banks expert at moifinanсы.rf. Why is it so easy for scammers to invoke different negative emotions like scare and other negative emotions? So we will go with financial literacy with the deputy of Tomsk region governor on economics, expert at moifinanсы.rf, Mikhail Sergeychik. Mikhail, you have the floor.
Добрый день, дорогие друзья.
Hi, everyone.
Я вот сейчас
Hi, dear friends.
слушал и думаю, наверное, надо было...
I've just listened to the previous presentation. I think
поведенческая экономика.
I should have been talking about psychology, but also behavior economy. We'll be talking about both of these topics, which makes it possible for us to resist scammers. And this is a very trendy topic, and I believe that everybody who lost money or who hear that you lost money, then we ask ourselves, what can we do? Because this is a real problem.
Которые энергия мошенников нам позволит от них защищаться. Почему я, то есть еще представляю как представитель экономики, еще до недавнего времени я вот вместе с коллегами, которые...
Well, until recently, jointly with my colleagues who launched this My Finance race, I worked with them jointly in the same team, and we used to promote all kinds of different projects. So in my region, we're still working on behavioral economy, and that really is important, critical. Now, down to business. Well, I believe the most important thing I really wanted to share with you, the point of it, is that the naive optimism and fatalism are the two drivers that really reinforce your susceptibility to fraudsters. These are the two opposites in psychology. So how do we find the golden middle? What are the states, the conditions that affect our susceptibility, that make us vulnerable to fraudsters, and they can pretty much benefit from us? Well, it's personal characteristics. If you are anxious, if you are worrying all the time, if you are at all times thinking, what if? Well, experience shows that these are the individuals that are especially susceptible to fraudsters and any ill intention. Now, it's also impulsive judgment and decisions and low self-control. That is, I really am guided by my feelings, my emotions, and I do not use my brain to the full capacity. It's several stages in our brain work that we can rely on. The first stage is the one that is easier to manage first. The other one is much trickier. Now, your readiness to submit to the authority and the power. Oftentimes, at least frequently, when the fraudsters call us, they introduce themselves as colonel or general, if you're really lucky, of the central bank. Then, should this happen, a respectable person in this very high post calls you. Many people, unfortunately, submit. They submit to this shock impression, and they start following the respondent's words and the actions this caller is suggesting. That's the importance of quick enrichment. In fact, a very long time ago in the stock exchange market, they came up with the special term, the fight between the fear and the greed. Fear and greed, indeed, that's what the fraudsters rely on, and also it's vanity, you know, when you're told you're so good, you're so smart, you are the best, the smartest, so I will share my insight with you. So I'm going to be the select one to have this insight shared with me so I can earn a lot. Some of you may have heard the following, like a year ago, this whole thing started and it's still on the way. They call you.
Господи, в этом WhatsApp и
They call you via WhatsApp, and they introduce themselves as callers from Wikipedia. And you've got to correct an article on yourself so that no one can correct it except for you. So last year, a very successful person lost several dozens millions on this because the fraudsters started their conversation with, let us make sure we record things rightfully in Wikipedia. I mean, Wikipedia is not available in Russia, right? We have the Wiki knowledge here. That is the Russian replacement, but vanity is always there. So this fear, vanity, and greed are exactly the sins we have to bear in mind when we analyze any incoming information. Now, emotional condition is emotional vulnerability, excitability, stress, anxiety, and depression. Why is this important? Well, I've talked to many people. In fact, I've been working on financial literacy for over 15 years now, and it is a very critical subject. When we started this whole narration, we thought it would just be sufficient to tell people how to act properly, how to be reasonable, and everyone, as if by magic wand, will immediately become reasonable. But then psychologists told us something we had realized long before, that people are completely rational and act most irrationally, and they're always susceptible to one-off, immediate, spontaneous desires and wishes. So we thought we would boost people's financial literacy, we would make sure they plan their finance, they plan their retirement. That's an important indicator of what's going to happen next. Well, no, this is not true. An important thing here is the behavioral psychology. That is how people act. It's not about the instant wish. It's to make sure that their spontaneous wishes and desires do not guide their future, do not impact it. Now, I talk to lots of people, and sometimes they say, well, somebody has been stolen a lot of money from. Right? And the question is, yeah, but how does this person have all this money? I mean, he's not very smart. Why should he have this money, right? That's the way our analysis works. Well, no, this is not true. There is 90% likelihood that such psychological situations when any of us can be very susceptible and truly guided by the fraudsters and taken over by them. There are two extremities. You are under stress, you're upset, you're dissatisfied, the fraudsters call you. They're excellent psychologists, they have beautiful scripts, and they start caring for you. And you immediately get hooked up. And another thing is, it's when you're happy. You think the entire world loves you, everyone is with you, everyone is for you, the world is beautiful, and every person around you is divine. They call you and they tell you this, and you can rely on this too. You can trust this. So when people say this will never happen to me, well, cool. It's cool if you are so invincible, but it's better to play safe and to be aware. Here is another thing. It's not always that the knowledge and the expertise really mean that you're not susceptible to fraudster actions. Well, no. Unfortunately, the expertise and the knowledge give you this very ambiguous and very unreliable confidence that I am the one who knows. There is just no way you can beat me. So it's self-confidence that acts against you. Now, the most important thing for the fraudsters is to play on some of your feelings, like there's a feeling of guilt. You've got to submit, you've got to surrender, so they impact your fear and your greed. And right now, from your account, you are losing the money. So the first reaction in our brain, and our brain is entirely responsive and reflexive. Our brain works immediately out of impulse. I mean, if you feel you're in danger, you run, you escape. If you've got to save your money, you go and save it. Now, the next stage that the fraudsters use is to make sure your second part of the brain stays disconnected. That is when your cognition starts operating. That is when you have to take a decision right away, here and now. Now, also, they isolate you from the community. They use all kinds of tricks to make sure you cannot ask advice from anyone. I've talked to the victims of the fraudsters, and
Приходил в банк, и
they were told somebody would come to a bank,
работает в банке, они все,
and
они все
he was told that the folks working at the bank are nasty. They all want to deceive him, right? So I talked to the bank staff later, and they said, well, look, many times we try to ask this person, why are you doing this? What are you doing this for? But this person was just so much taken by the feeling he could not trust anyone that it did not work.
делитесь вы в семье
I don't know if you guys share any financial issues in your family. I mean, the classical financial literacy question is, do you discuss your family budget? Do you have any mid or long-term financial goals? Do your kids, I mean, if you're adults, do your kids know how you're going to achieve these financial goals? Do your kids understand the mandatory payments in your family? Unfortunately or fortunately, every year we see that the percentage of people who discuss this stuff in the family is growing.
хотим, чтобы он был больше.
At the same time, this rate is not very high yet. Unfortunately, we want it to be much, much higher. The same thing happens when we get the fraudsters. We do not have a habit to discuss things with your nears and dears. Like, I was offered such and such options. And
Когда-то опыт, он обращался к кому-то.
if this person has ever had an experience of turning to the family, the community, the friends, the colleagues for advice, and was told something unpleasant, he would have a negative experience, so he will never again turn back to anyone for advice. So he stays truly secluded in his isolated little world, and it is not at all granted that he will take the right decision.
Еще факты из
And that's why the fraudsters work as well. What other facts do they use? I mean, that's the basic principle. That's when you use the truth and
то есть
the lies. The truth and the lies together, like they call you.
видим, да,
I mean, we all see
сливается. Поэтому
that there are lots of databases that get shared in an illicit way. So they name the bank,
человек, ну, то есть
they address you by your name and patronymic, so you feel trust. You know, you can trust this person. And here is another principle that's called the principle of 3 yeses.
если
That is,
3 раза
psychologists believe that if a person responds yes 3 times, well,
как это
you already have built trust.
говорить
And it's a 50% trust. How does this work? You are Ivan?
в банке?
Yes.
Вы
You have an account at an X bank? Yes. You've recently made some transactions? Yes. So with the 3 times yes, psychologists say the next question that is not going to be direct, it can be very indirect, you will say yes, and you will give the information because you already trust the caller.
пользуются. Это называется такой принцип.
So this is what they use. It's the 3 yes principles. So we always, at all times, need to turn on our critical thinking.
Когда у нас
The critical thinking works when the second part of our brain starts becoming operational.
сами участвовали, когда вот ты сидишь, у тебя идет какой-то сложный мозговой штук,
Like, for instance, when you are sitting someplace in some very tough brainstorm for several hours, you come out exhausted and you say, oh my God, I should have better carried loads around and big sacks. Because when you work intellectually and soundly for a long time, you truly get exhausted. And our body really protects us. Our body protects us in a way that we can address the incoming situations based on our reflex. Like if it's a danger, I run away. If it feels dangerous for my nears and dears, I save them. I mean, that's reflex-based. When we turn on our critical thinking, the cognition, we spend a lot of energy and effort. That's why
мошенник.
our brain can resist.
Психологи тоже говорят, что фокус нашего внимания, он не
The other tools the fraudsters use are that the focus of our attention is not really very reliable. It's not long and big. So at the time you get a call, you're driving, or you're doing housework, you may well just automatically, mechanically
психологически уже занят. Вы можете вот тоже повестись на эту удочку.
Be deceived. You can truly get hooked up just because you're not paying attention.
Критическое мышление.
The important thing here is our critical thinking.
Слайдов у меня было.
In one of the slides, I had this information for you, like Goethe said, knowledge,
Сомнения. Поэтому чем ты больше знаешь, тем ты можешь задавать
expertise reinforces our doubts. The more you know, the more questions you ask. Although financial literacy does not always protect you from fraud, but financial literacy certainly expands your intellectual and mental horizons. It makes it possible for you to ask more questions. At some point of time, I was talking to a different victim of the financial fraudsters. That was several years ago.
с одного банка, ну, представили службу безопасности.
She had a call from one bank introducing themselves as a financial security service. You have another bank? Yes. She says, well,
Этого
let us refer you to the financial security service of this bank. I asked, did you think about how come they had this direct connection? Well, I thought the security service would have a direct connection.
в банках.
So she actually was the victim to 3 banks. I mean, she lost money at 3 banks. It's a good thing when you only lose your own money. Yeah, the worst thing is when they take your name to take loans in your name. So
Это развитие своего
most important thing is to develop your own critical thinking and the understanding of how this works, how people work around you. The fraudsters usually, we say, work only to take away our money. Well, unfortunately, there is another side to it. That is due to the lack of knowledge of how some financial instruments operate. We get guided by a great income. We just go and leave our money there in their hands, hoping that somebody will earn a lot of money for us this way. And this goes on continuously.
тоже финансовых.
This is yet another side of financial fraud. That's a great desire of big money we all share and a belief that someone really wants to share this with us. It's like a magician flying in an helicopter, promising and giving you
Следующий момент.
the
Портрет.
great wealth. That's when we're way too greedy. Now, here is a portrait of the fraudster. It's the absence of empathy and of the sense of guilt. Some fraudsters even are sadistic. Not everyone, not all of them. But the fact that they do not have the sense of guilt and empathy is very true. They just totally lack empathy. An important thing many believe is critical is that when you do not have any empathy, you do not have any emotional intellect. No, not true. The fraudsters have a very highly developed emotional intellect. They are excellent in adjusting to the interlocutor. They hear the interlocutor and they always respond to them. So that's exactly why the people with a highly developed emotional intellect, they really accomplish their results. They manage to manipulate people they are talking to.
Нашему слайду это как защитить.
And now we're moving on to our next slide. That is, how do we protect ourselves? Now, what do we do here?
Разные рецепты.
It depends on the age. I mean, there are lots of solutions, lots of ways to do this. Now, talking of kids, I'm very glad to see that we have financial literacy in our education. Kids learn to do the calculations. Kids learn how this works. But in your family, if you still discuss how your personal budget works, it's going to be extremely useful. Based on this, they will develop a critical thinking. Your children will, depending on the family, because regardless of what kind of curriculum they have at school, if the child comes home and sees wrong financial behavior, he takes it as a model, and he takes it entirely to his adult life. Critical thinking, the development of financial expertise and knowledge.
Финансовые инструменты. Что нам предлагать?
We need to understand how the financial market works. Long-term planning. Why is this important? Well, because when you understand how you want to build your life in 5, 10, 15 years, what your financial goals are, you've got to go there towards them. If you're living with your spontaneous, instantaneous goals, you can respond to any call. You can say no to the most beneficial, you can say yes to the most beneficial proposal. I mean, we've talked of the proposals, the offers that generate like 100% income a month too. Self-control and enacting the possible situations. Why? We all know what fraudsters are about. Everyone has heard of that. Now, how do you act to make sure you're not caught in? This is what really matters. And in fact, the Ministry of Finance are planning to do online simulators that will make it possible to play out how do I behave properly, how do I make sure I'm not caught in. Here is one thing, the practical expertise should become practical and hands-on. That is, you really have to truly practice as a reflex what exactly you say to the fraudsters. So that's the end of it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's Deputy Governor of the Tomsk region, the expert of My Finance Resource and RF, Mikhail. Now, you've flown in here from Tomsk. And I'm reminding this to the dwellers of other regions. Come here to Moscow. It's a beautiful summer. It's useful. It's friendly. It's beneficial, and we develop our cognition. And Monkey Mind, as you understand, is about all of us. I mean, we all have a fear, we all are greedy, and we are all vain. With an example from Wikipedia, I realize you can only get me through the latter third point. You remember the devil's advocate? Exactly, that's my very favorite sin. Thank you.